Did they kill Iceman? The answer is chilling. Welcome to the Newest Mutants. Today on the Newest Mutants, we're talking Astonishing Iceman #1. And of course, it does deal with the fallout from the Hellfire Gala, but most importantly, we asked the question, is Iceman dead? Before we answer that question, however, let's check out the cover art. This is going to be a classic Iceman pose on his ice slide. Look at that. Here's a digital image right here, right, that you can see. And this is some really nice work by Jesus Saiz. Let's enjoy it just for a moment. Very good, very good. Now, time to check out the team behind the issue. We're going to start first with Steve Orland, our writer, Vincenzo Caratu, our artist, Hava Tartaglia, our color artist. We have VC's Travis Lanham, our letterer, and Tom Muller and Jay Bowen on design. And as always, our editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics, it's CB Cebulski. Our story begins in a lovely place called San Francisco, where a bunch of humans are sort of caught in the crossfire of a swarm of mutant hunting tech that looks suspiciously like computers and headphones, but with bug wings. It's very strange. They claim they've detected an X gene, and they're just attacking people in the streets, trying to get to their target. At least that's how it looks. What's actually happening is these electronics are being invaded by nano sentinels that are transforming them to hunt mutants. That's what's happening. It's a very weird technology. It's the first time I've been exposed to it, but hey, cool. I'm glad sentinel tech is evolving. No, not really. So these nano sentinels are knocking people down. But then there's like one guy who kind of realizes that not everything falling from the sky is attacking them. And he's like, oh, some of this is cold. It's like ice. And that's when we cut to a full-page panel of Iceman sledding in with someone in the crowd saying, Iceman? As a question. Because last time we saw him, he looked like this. This is still one of the most shocking deaths I've seen illustrated in a comic book. Very nice, very nice. Bobby, Iceman, he lands, he starts to converse with some of the victims on the ground, and then someone screams for help. And this person is being chased by more of these nano sentinels, and they're like, new X gene detected, eliminating lure. Sounds like this person was just bait. Iceman easily handles these robots, and in a short conversation we realize that the lure in this situation was someone who had at one time used the recreational drug called Experience. Just in case you are not aware, Experience was a designer drug that first appeared in Uncanny X-Men number 530, and it was created by Loeb. As with all of these designer drugs made to make humans into mutants, it ultimately didn't turn out well for the designers, of course. The entire leftover stock of Experience was destroyed by the Uncanny X-Men in issue Uncanny X-Men 534, except for two possible doses that made it out the door. One that would give someone Emma Frost's abilities, and another that would give someone Jean Grey's abilities. That sounds really, really dangerous. But, X-Men, that's their life. So Bobby, introduces himself as Iceman, a melter of hearts, and an infamous mutant attention getter, and with a kiss on the lips to the person that he saved from this weird mutant hunting nano sentinels, he's out like the cold in summer. He just fades away. And yes, Iceman is gay. If you didn't know that Iceman was gay, here, look at this image from the very first X-Men comic ever, where he says he has no interest in girls. Of course, this was canonized years later that he was, in fact, a gay mutant. So there you go. Stop complaining about wokeness in comics. Stop. It's always been woke. We now cut to a place called the Bloom, which is an orbital space base run by Orcus. While impressed with their nanosentinel's ability to lure out Iceman, they're a little pissed because Iceman keeps taking them out. The director of the base, whoever is sitting in this big chair, is mad. He's big mad. He claims that, their job is to covertly cleanse the extant mutants on Earth, but it's Bobby Drake the Iceman who continuously foils their plans. Also, check out the evil villain mustache and beard on this fool. I mean, come on, you couldn't make them look more evil? I guess you could have. Before we cut back to Iceman, Mr. Evil Mustache Guy is like, it's finally time to call out the cleaner. But who is the cleaner? I don't know. Or do I? We're now in the fabled land of Antarctica, because where else would the Iceman have a base? He shows up and he literally walks through the door. Maybe because it's made of ice and snow, he can phase through it. I don't know. But then he kind of collapses on the ground, and he says he was pushing it. He also says he's, being near death doesn't mean much if you're not living. But what does that really mean? Is he alive? What is happening to our boy Bobby Drake, the Iceman? I don't know. As he continues through his, frozen castle wonderland, he creates this ice golem that kind of looks like the old school Iceman. That's kind of like a snowman, right? And it helps him get up, and it's walking him through this castle. And Bobby is talking to the golem, calling it buddy. And he's musing on being the former class clown of the X-Men, being Earth's quote-unquote star fugitive, and the hydrator of Arakko/Mars. He thinks that modesty feels like hiding, and that's what Orcus wants, which is why he's out there being the flashy Bobby Drake we all know. So we're getting a really good look into the mindset of Iceman right now, which is where we get a flashback to the Hellfire Gala. And Bobby relives the attack by Nimrod and his own death, how he was injected with cellular napalm. And then we see Romeo's reaction. Romeo, of course, is Bobby's boyfriend, an Inhuman as well. He is, of course, horrified, and we see a series of panels featuring Romeo. The first, he's standing on a building, like the top of a building, potentially, contemplating suicide. And then he's got this cold weather gear, and he's traveling someplace cold, obviously, which we learn is Antarctica. And Bobby explains that Romeo is an empath, and the more that he feels for someone, the more his power affects them. And in Iceman's instance, Romeo went to Antarctica, where he had built this fortress, this of solitude, if you will, this ice castle. And, Bobby could feel his empathic abilities through that because the snow there was him also, but he was melted, something like that. But Bobby says Romeo, felt so strongly for Iceman that Iceman eventually felt strongly for him, even though he was dead. And Romeo's empathic abilities allowed him to sort of pull him back from death. So far, however, we haven't seen Iceman turn, human. He hasn't gone back into his non-ice form. So all of this conversation and thought process was with the ice golem, and now Bobby is starting to talk to Romeo. Romeo can see and sense him, and they're kind of speaking through this ice door. Look. We find out that the ice of this castle was made by Bobby, and that's why here Romeo was able to bring him back. But the longer he is away from this place, the closer he is to once again melting and potentially dying. Luckily, when he returns, Romeo is there and can, quote, hold him together. So they're intrinsically linked at this point. Iceman and Romeo have a bit of an argument about, why they're doing what they're doing. Romeo says he's not just helping Iceman just to help Iceman, but because people like Orcus won't stop with mutants, First, it's people, who have a modified X gene, like the guy who took the experience drug, and then it's, Inhumans. He has a point, of course, right? These, people are nuts. So we now cut to Fort Washington, Long Island, New York, Iceman's backyard. We get a look at Iceman's mother. She's walking into her home, and then above it, we see this vortex that appears. And in the narration, we learn that Orcus has created a team of synthetic mutants featuring Helium, the unfreezable man, and his elements of doom. I'm not kidding, that's what they're called. We can see here there is a vortex and a few other elemental-looking creatures or characters. But that's the book. Nice cliffhanger. And now to the part of the episode where I like to say, thank you for making it this far. I got a quick question for you. Will Iceman make it out of this series alive? Let me know in the comments. And while you're there, give us a like and a subscribe. We really love to see that sort of thing here. I've got 2 playlists going. One for the New Mutants Lethal Legion, which is complete, and the ongoing Fall of X playlist, which this is a part of. Check any of them out anytime. But let's get back to the show. And we're back. Even though we never left. Let's first start with my takeaways from this issue. Number 1, Iceman seems unable to leave his ice form. The question is, how alive is he? Will he make it out of this story arc? It's possible. He may be linked to Romeo for a very long time. I don't know, and he may not even be cured. He might just be elemental ice. I don't know, but my main question is, will he make it out alive? Okay, number 2. Helium, the unfreezable man? And his elements of doom? Wow. Very cheesy. It reminds me of like a DC villain squadron, or even like Spider-Man enemies. But no, these are going to be like Iceman's enemies. It'll be interesting to see him being pitted up against other elementals, I guess. I'm curious who the other elements of doom are. Argon Man, perhaps? Maybe Neon Girl? I don't know. All right, and 3, we're starting to really see the full scope of the Orcus operation. They're obviously huge. They have private space stations, which I don't know why a single world government would allow, Orcus to have a space station. It seems really crazy, but of course it's the Marvel Universe. Everyone has a space station, at least at some point. But whatever. They have one at least, and Iceman is foiling their plans. Romeo gave us a pretty dire warning, though, that they won't end their purity crusade with just mutants. They'll eventually move on to Inhumans, and then probably other superpowered folk. That's me speculating. Which is, of course, always the problem with people who are so caught up in the purity of whatever they think humanity is. They keep drawing lines in the sand until everyone is on the other side except for them. There is no end to this. This is why we meaning people who have compassion, need to just, crush those who don't. It's a bit of a contradiction, but to put it simply, the mean people of the world shouldn't get anywhere as a consequence of them being mean or awful people. Always resist them, as the mutants say. That's my soapbox for the day. And with those takeaways, let's now check out my favorite panels. The first one is this cool panel of Iceman smashing a frozen nano sentinel that had taken control of some of this machinery. I think it's really awesome looking art. I'm a big fan of these mostly ice blue shades. Also some big smash there in that onomatopoeia. I dig it. Very good art. The second panel I want to bring your attention to is actually the final panel of the book, showing on a smartphone screen the attack from the elements of doom, including who I think is Helium, as well as a few other elemental pals. Maybe one of them is Silicon Woman. okay, bad joke, but I'm gonna keep making these weird elemental jokes as long as they're in the books. So cool panel though. I really like it. But what is my favorite panel? Check it out. And this is my favorite panel from this book. It's a full page arrival of Iceman. He just looks majestic as he's coming down from the heavens. The artist even got some lens flares in there. Probably my favorite piece of art in this book. Please enjoy. Yeah, it's nice, right? That's what I'm saying. And with that, we are on to my favorite part of the show, and it's the part of the show where I show off a comic book from my collection. Now, I didn't have any books that directly correlated to the characters or events of this story that were not Fall of X, specifically. So we're going to whip out... Where the hell did I put it? Here it is. We're going to whip out this X Factor comic from April of 1988. And on the cover is Iceman, who, as you can see, has just made a frozen Christmas tree, or as I like to say, an Xmas tree, on top of the Empire State Building. I love this cover. It's very Bobby. It exudes a lot of fun. You know, Iceman, always the practical joker of the X-Men. And this is such a cool thing that he did. Everyone else on this little ice, slide is having a blast, just sliding down. I really enjoy this particular cover, but please, I also want you to enjoy this particular cover just for a few more moments until we say goodbye, because that is the time of day that we are at on this particular episode. Coming up on the next episode, we're going to talk about X-Men Red, number 14. And then the episode after that, we're going to do Wolverine 36. We're almost done with the first round of Fall of X books, and we're going to be getting into the second round very shortly. So please keep watching, keep liking, keep subscribing, and keep Xing, whatever that means. As always, Excelsior.